Right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. My name is Benjamin Johnson. I'm the events coordinator here for McNally Robinson Booksellers, Saskatoon. This event is being held on Treaty 6 territory, which is the land of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Dakota, Lakota, and Nakota, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. As we listen to our speakers share their words today, may we also keep in mind the Indigenous stories that have been shared on this land since time immemorial. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Saskatoon launch of Sequel, edited by Chenise Puchailo. I got it right this time. And published by Spud Publishing, and also featuring two authors from the collection, Jasper Dent and Danielle Grant. Thank you so much to Chenise, Danielle, and Jasper for being here this evening to share their work. I'm going to deviate from script a little bit here. For those of you who don't know, Jasper and I have been friends for a very, very long time. I've seen through him the incredible amount of time and effort that's gone into crafting this new collection. So congratulations to all of you on producing such a wonderful piece of art. Just a note, this event is being live streamed, so please be aware of the webcam off to your right. I'd also like to take this time to encourage you to silence your phones for the duration of the event. If you would like to buy copies of Sequel, you can find them on the signing table behind me, as well as on the desk by where you first walked in. We have lots of copies, so don't worry, we're not going to run out. You are welcome to get them signed before you buy them, but please buy them if you get them signed, because that's really, it's not good. It's not good. And now to introduce our editor. Chenise Puchailo lives in the Canadian prairies, making her home in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan with her loyal canine and an overwhelming bucket of dreams. As an aspiring author turned publisher, she's passionate about creating a publishing experience that benefits and speaks to other aspiring writers. Everyone, please give Chenise a warm welcome.
This will work. This is fine. Hi, everyone. Wow, again, I was overwhelmed at the turnout of Debut, our first book that came out, and I'm equally overwhelmed at the turnout for Sequel. The amount of community support that goes into these books and the amount of community that goes into making these books is insane. So to speak a little bit about the process, both Debut and Sequel are what we call developmental anthologies. And that is, I don't accept finished stories, I actually accept applications. So I had asked for an artist statement, an outline of what they intended to write, and then a sample of their writing, and that is how we chose from. It was a very hard choice. There was some very talented people who should have been in it that unfortunately didn't make it, and I really hope they apply again. And we even expanded our roster this time around because the amount of talent that we had reach out to us was just more than we could even know what to do with. And throughout the process, we do peer review feedback on each other. I do sit in as managing editor, but for the most part, we invite all the writers and artists to engage with each other and build this community. We brought our interior designer on board, and it was just like watching this network of friends continue to grow. And I hope that they all maintain their relationships throughout. Sequel and Debut, even before that, is an endeavor of community, and that is absolutely what we want to continue doing. So once again, thank you all for coming and being a part of this community as well. So I will introduce our first writer, who I can see for a lot of you needs no introduction, but I will call up Jasper first. Now, Jasper, I ran into him when we did the Debut launch here, and I will say that the title Sequel is Jasper's fault. As we were trying to figure out what we were going to call the next book, I remember as we were packing everything up and getting ready to head out of here, Jasper goes, you know, wouldn't it be funny if you called it Sequel? Yeah, it sure would. So I'm super honored and super glad to have Jasper also be one of the writers in the book that he also titled. And without further ado, I would like to call Jasper up.
Hello. Before I read anything, I just want to shout out the absolutely incredible artist who illustrated my story, Maya Babineau. Her work's amazing. There's 2 illustrations in here, and they're both incredible. They're better than anything I could have pictured myself. So thank you so much to her. She can't be here, but her art is with us. So my story is set in Saskatchewan in 1995, and it follows a reporter from Saskatoon who's sent to a small town in southern Saskatchewan to investigate some strange animal attacks. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not werewolves. And I'm not going to read the start of the story. I'm going to read just a little bit further in. It's his first morning in the town where he's staying to do this investigation, and he's going to meet up with a contact to get some more information about these attacks and possibly about the mysterious fertilizer company that's moved into town and is doing all sorts of strange things. So, Thursday, March 16th, 1995, Adams, Saskatchewan. A light dusting of fresh snow covered the ground. I showered, packed up my notebook and camera, and stopped by the front desk on my way to the diner. Oh no, he wasn't staying here, Donna said when I asked her about the Agpo worker. I don't know where he was staying. I think a couple folks are renting out rooms in town, but I couldn't really tell you more than that. It wasn't the lucky break I was hoping for, but that was fine. I just asked Agpo when I visited them. The diner was quieter that morning. At the counter were a group of old-timers, coffee mugs in hand, talking about the weather and crops. I sat at an empty booth, and when the waitress, Bonnie, told me Mike hadn't arrived yet, I ordered some coffee and breakfast. I felt like the cold, clear country air was making me hungrier than usual. I was about halfway done when I heard Bonnie call out, "Good morning, Mike." I turned towards the doors. The man who'd entered was short, stocky, and gray-haired. He wore a flannel shirt and a John Deere cap. Bonnie waved him over and introduced us. Mike eyed me warily. City paper, huh? Yes, I said. I'm here to write about the animal attacks in the area. He said. And you'll buy me breakfast? I didn't see how I could say no, so I nodded and he sat down. Bonnie poured him a cup of coffee, and once she left, he looked at me expectantly. So, you want to know about the attacks? You got an open mind? Yes, I said. Because I've been calling the RCMP and the papers, and they've all given me the runaround. Hadn't thought to call Saskatoon, but I guess the news got to you somehow. What do you mean they've given you the runaround? I asked, opening my notebook. They don't listen. They say, "Oh, sorry about your cows, Mike," but they won't do anything about it. They don't want problems with the environmentalists or the animal lovers or what have you. Oh, it's just coyotes, they're harmless. They damn well aren't, and they don't want to hear about what's really going on. I was starting to have second thoughts about this interview, but I tried to keep a neutral face and at least a somewhat neutral mind. What is really going on? Mike leaned toward me and lowered his voice. Those coyotes, they're changing. Frowned. Pardon? Changing. They aren't regular coyotes, not the ones killing my livestock. They've always been wily buggers, but it's different now. They're not getting through the fences. He paused. They're opening the gates. For a second, I didn't know what to say. They're opening the gates. I look for tracks every morning, and they're not going under the fences. They're going right up to the gates. They're somehow unlatching them and getting inside that way. My hand hovered over my notebook, pen touching the surface of the paper, but frozen in place. Coyotes can't open gates, though. They haven't got thumbs. As I said it, I felt ridiculous. I know that, Mike snapped. Of course I know that. But I saw one peering in my window the other day, standing on two legs, paws up on the windowsill, staring in with those eyes. He shuddered. I know what I saw. I went out the next morning, and sure enough, there were tracks there by the window. It wasn't a dream or anything like that. They're changing. I'm sleeping with a gun in my room now. I shook my head slowly. That's unsettling. Damn right it is. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to process this. I tapped my pen against the paper. There was a coyote looking in your window and tracks outside the fence, but have you seen them open the gate? Well, no, of course not. They're doing it in the middle of the night. Couldn't they just go through the fence? I asked, thinking that I'd mostly seen barbed wire around here, nothing too difficult to crawl through or under. They could, Mike said, but they aren't. Right. I took a sip of my coffee to stall for time. Would it be possible for me to come out to your place? Take a look, maybe get some photos of the tracks? Sure, Mike nodded. Yeah, I can show you. How many cows have you lost? I asked. I needed something I could write down, some solid facts. 2, he said. One had a nasty bite taken out of her, but I managed to patch her up. My cats have gone missing too. And my neighbor, one of his dogs disappeared, along with a bunch of his chickens. I wrote that down. Do you know anything about the Agpo worker who was attacked? Nope, he said. Just that it happened. Makes you nervous, though. Not surprised they've started going after people. Can you think of anything else it could have been? With the worker, I mean, I asked. Have there been any cougar sightings in the area? What about wolves or bears? There aren't any cougar or bear tracks, Mike said, and I can tell a coyote from a wolf. I looked over my notes doubtfully. I wasn't convinced about a coyote attacking a person. I still wasn't convinced about them attacking a cow, to be honest. If Mike had tracks to show me, though, that would at least be a place to start. We made plans for me to stop by his place later that day. I wanted to visit Agpo first, though, see if I could get more hard facts or a theory that was better than coyotes who could somehow unlock gates. I paid my bill, thanked Bonnie, and left. Blustery wind had picked up while I'd been inside, and it buffeted me on my walk back to the motel. Halfway there, I thought I saw movement in the tall grass by the side of the road, and I froze, staring at the spot. After a long moment, though, I decided it must have been a rabbit or a porcupine, or my own imagination getting to me. I sped up. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're good now. I remember the first time I read Jasper's story, having grown up in rural Manitoba, probably roughly about a 2-hour drive from where this story would be set. It honestly felt like being home. And I remember mentioning like, oh, like you really should put something in there about Coffee Row, like really get that small town prairie feel into it. But no, so that was Jasper's story, Coyote Blues. I do want to mention, we do have a bit of an exciting announcement regarding sequel. We launched officially April 2nd. This is just our Saskatoon location launch. And we have sold over 100 copies of sequel, which for us little guys is kind of like the coolest thing ever. Once again, we appreciate all of you pulling together and all of you being a part of this community. And like with everyone here, we are definitely going to beat that number by a lot. So I would love to introduce Danielle next. Now, Danielle is kind of a funny story because this whole time I kept being like, how did you hear about us? Like, how did you know to apply to be a part of sequel? And every single time she's like, oh, my friend told me. And I was like, oh, okay, how did your friend hear about us? And every single time she goes, I don't know. So her friend's actually at the back there. I finally got the story. And it was, we bumped into each other, or she came to our table at a Christmas market and bought like 2 of our like little silly potato pins, because we're very well branded as the potato people when we travel. And we had talked about being open for submissions. She then told Danielle that information, and then we got Danielle to work with as well here. Now she has been a delight to work with. We've become friends since. We have definitely pulled some all-nighters writing our own personal projects. And so I'm, again, so glad to have her on this project as well. And I would, without further ado, like to bring her up to the mic.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I wrote the short story Refracted. If you get a copy, it's the first book, or the first story in the book. Quick shout out to Cameron, who I don't think I've ever pronounced his last name, so I don't think I'm going to try it today. But wonderful, wonderful art. All of the artists were very, very good, and the writers as well, and Spud Pub as well. You were a pleasure to work with. I am going to start at and read the beginning of the story. It's not a whole lot you need to know to get into it, but basically the premise is a brother and a sister notice something weird. And just a little spoiler warning, there are swear words. 1 or 2. My feet pummeled the pavement as I marched to Wes's shitty apartment. The asshole lived on the opposite side of downtown, a good dozen blocks away. Damn it. Wes had called, freaking out about his goddamn reflection of all things. And of course I answered, junky asshole. It was either too late or too early for his shit. The few drunks stumbling about yelled incoherently at me as I passed, but I kept my hood up, head bent, and feet moving. It's not like he had anyone else. Not really. Neither of us could call our parents for help. We'd moved to the city to get away from them. Hell, they're probably the reason Wes chose to handle problems with drugs. Alcoholic mother, deadbeat dad. All his friends were also junkies. A junkie's junkie, he called himself. If he were lucky, they'd tell him to drink some water and sleep it off. Unlucky, and they'd prescribe him a downer. His girlfriend had broken up with him for the 6th time, and it'd be another week at least before they got back together. Not that she'd improve his situation by adding to the chaos with her own demons. Wes only had me. I approached his building and saw the brick propping open the front door. Truly a stalwart guardian. I rolled my eyes as I swung the door open, towing the brick out of the way. Up the staircase, up to the 4th floor, and all the way down the hall. I had Wes's spare key nestled in my pocket, but I knew I wouldn't need it. I twisted the doorknob and stormed in without preamble or pleasantry. Weston, you fucker! It is 3:00 in the morning. I screamed at my older brother, not caring if the neighbors heard. Yelling was hardly an unusual sound in the building. Wes Crower could have been a tall man were he to ever stand up straight, but he always stood as he did now, crumpled over himself like a wasted wad of paper. The sandy brown hair on his face was permanently unshaven scruff, never growing noticeably beyond that length. As far as I knew, Wes had a severe allergy to shaving cream and razors. Why else would the shaving kit I bought him 2 Christmases ago still be in its packaging? Possibly for the best. Clean shaven, he'd look like a flatter chested me. Maddie! He did not seem perturbed one iota by my yelling. Wes had stopped pacing once he realized I was there, his dull blue eyes continuing to rove about the room as though casing his own joint. Thank fuck he came. Wes stumbled over to me, the smell of stale coffee and smoke wafting from him, and grabbed my hand. His hand felt bony in my own. It was much too thin again. The boiling anger I'd walked in with cooled to a simmer. I redoubled my grip on Wes, as though he might fade away if I released it, and let my brother guide me over to his living room and to a floor-length mirror. Leaning innocuously against the wall, this seemed to be the one from the back of his bedroom door. Yep, tacks poked out from the back and scratched the paint, a superficial crack running along the surface from when we had struggled to hang it. I sighed as he positioned me to stand framed in the mirror. Look, Maddie, he commanded. Wes, what have you been taking tonight? What? Tonight? Nothing. Look. Frustration radiated from him as he pointed more insistently. I needed to keep him talking, so I looked. My reflection stared back, as quizzical as I. She and I waved to one another, the crack running along the surface marred the image. Come on, buddy. No judgment, but I need you to be honest so I can help. Remember? No, Maddie. Look. The corners of my reflection's mouth quivered downward as she tried to reason with Mirror Wes. Wes. Fine, yeah, a little weed. But that's not even the point, Maddie. He wrung his hands, casting his gaze once more about the room. With a little shout of triumph, he bent down to scoop up something from beside the leg of his couch. Wes shoved it at me. Take it. With a sigh, I took the proffered object. A stress ball. The cheapo kind you buy 3 for a toonie. It smiled banally up at me. Oh. It's great. Maddie, he whined. Don't patronize me, just... He waved his arms about. Toss it up and catch it. I have work in 3 hours. Wes's eyes snapped back to me, pleading with me to comply. His body trembled as though he could not contain himself. He pantomimed, tossing a ball into the air, going so far as to bend his knees in time with his catches. Just please, please, he whispered as he mimed. I sighed, but did as requested. No. Not with the other hand, just the one. I heard my teeth clack together. Sure thing. Wes seemed to relax a little, although he was trained on the path of the ball so intently, I thought it might catch fire. So, you gonna tell me about your night? Up and down. Kind of rocky, was it? I asked, only to realize he was talking about the goddamn ball. Wes? Up and down, he continued to mutter under his breath. If you're not gonna answer me, I'm not going to act. Wes, you fucking asshole. With the speed of a poised tiger, Wes had grabbed my arm with a slapping force. It hadn't actually hurt, but he shifted my hand so the ball fell, bouncing against the low-piled carpet and rolling to a stop by his foot. Look, he screamed at me. There's nothing to, I choked, surprised. I saw it. I saw it. I had dropped the ball, but my reflection hadn't. The other me was still mimicking me, peering dumbfoundedly from cupped hand to the floor. I tilted my hand. My reflection tilted hers. The mirror ball toppled down, spinning one way before reorienting itself to roll to Wes's foot, as though he were magnetic. I tried to swallow for several minutes, but failed. You fucker, did you hotbox me? I managed to gasp out. No, not how that works. I swear. Honest. Remember? Well, if I'm not high, I've gone insane. You're not mad, Maddie. Then what, Wes? What the fuck did I just see? Wes released my arm to cradle himself, rocking back and forth on his heels. I don't really know. I noticed it a few days ago, that we weren't lining up exactly. Figured I was just high. I tried so hard to ignore it. I swear. But I was obsessed with the idea that our movements weren't matching. Even when I sobered up, I couldn't stop staring. And then I thought of the ball experiment, and one time I missed the ball, but he didn't. And I did it again and again. And I freaked out. I freaked out, Maddie, and I called you. Thank fuck you came, because I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't. I slumped into Wes's ancient couch. Even in my shock, I opted for the left side, which contained 85% of the cushioning. Wes shuffled over, standing before me. That's not all. I groaned and childishly covered my ears. Don't, Wes. I don't want to know. Clutched my wrists, pulling them away so I would be forced to hear. Maddie, listen. Listen to me. The reason he glanced at the mirror quickly as if he were afraid of attracting her notice, caught the ball and you didn't. She caught it before I moved your hand because, Maddie, they're real and we're the reflections. How the hell are you supposed to react to something as asinine as that? I deadass fainted.
Thank you, Danielle. Now, believe it or not, there actually were more swears in that prior to the editing process. Now, I remember when I first read through Danielle's work, I remember she had a remarkable way of just conveying a situation, a setting, and a character with just one line. And that was where I was like, wow, this person really stands out. I need her in this. And yeah, I'm very glad to have worked with both of you. As I've said numerous times before, I'm so honored to be your publisher, and I'm so honored that all of you came out to hear from them, hear readings from them. I would also like to give mention to the authors and artists who are unable to attend today. Now, let's see if I remember the roster off the top of my head. Danielle had thank you. It's always like that moment of panic of like, am I gonna forget somebody as I go through? So we had Refracted by Danielle and her artist Cameron. We had Coyote Blues by Jasper Dent and his artist Maya Babanu. I like asked her how to pronounce her last name and it still didn't stick. We also had The Bell Tolls for Me by Victor Hua and his artist was Anita Ho. We had Sugarloaf Hill by Christian Lowe and his artist was, oh gosh, there's so many of you and I'm bad at remembering. Yu also goes by Ada. There was Hyphae by Chandra Fisher and her artist Suke, and then Necroflora by Con Lavery and his artist, oh my goodness, again, there's so many of you. Elise, right. So unfortunately, they could not join us here in part because they do live across Canada. We are honored to work with all of these artists and writers who've somehow heard about this small publisher based out of Saskatoon. And that being said, if we do have other writers and artists in the audience, we will be opening for submissions this fall for our next installment in this, which we believe we are calling either Encore or Afterward. We haven't decided yet, but we kind of want to stay on brand. All right, I will pass things back to Benjamin here to kick us off.
For sure. I was going to suggest the squeakquel, but
Also had threequel.
okay, treatment, yeah. Before we wrap up and get to signing, we'd love to open it up to the audience. If you have any questions for our authors or for our editor slash publisher, feel free to raise your hand. I can run the microphone to you and you can ask away. And if not, I'm going to stare really awkwardly at everybody. Oh, in the back. Perfect.
Don't. I'm assuming it's gonna be for you.
So you guys said these are stories written specifically for the book, is that correct?
Yes, so we don't accept finished stories.
Yeah.
We do accept outlines and writing samples. So we give the writers about 2 to 3 months to write their first draft. And that way it goes through the peer review process. So everybody gets to comment and receive feedback on everybody else's.
Nice. So are these, I'll open it to both. Are these stories that you've had the idea for before and then brought to the project? Or are these like specific for the project? Like how did you come up with the ideas? Because they both seem very unique and it's cool that they're in one place. So they're, yeah.
I've actually had the idea for the story for quite some time. I actually tried to write it once before and I gotten like a decent chunk of it written. When I came back to it, when I had learned about Spud Pub looking for submissions, I came back to it and I looked at it and went, oh, this needs to be torn apart and redone. So yeah, this is definitely something I've been sitting on for a long time. The idea of the story just came from thinking about light and the way, for example, stars can still impact us, whether or not they're still around, that light is still coming to us and yeah, can change what's happening. So yeah, I've definitely had this idea for quite some time.
Yeah, I'd also had the idea for a while before, and then yeah, when Spud Publishing opened submissions, I was looking for a way to create this, to make this idea into a story, and I just hadn't had the motivation, and then that gave me the motivation and the timeline to have to actually write it and finish it. So that was really nice.
Do we have any other questions? I think we're all good in that case then. If you do have any other questions for Jasper or Danielle or Chenise, I'm sure they'll be happy to talk to you afterwards. But yeah, just a reminder, we have copies on the table over there. We have copies by where you first came in. And thank you all so much for being here. And thank you, Chenise and Jasper and Danielle, for sharing your words tonight. Another round of applause for our presenters.